The Star in Frisco felt different the Monday after the bye week. The halls usually buzzed with casual jokes and pre-practice energy, but this morning there was only silence, thick and heavy, like something important was about to happen. Coaches walked with quicker steps. Players glanced at one another without speaking. Everyone sensed it. Something was shifting inside the Dallas Cowboys organization. Behind a closed door on the second floor, offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer stood in front of a giant screen filled with clips from the season. Missed routes. Blown blocks. Slow linebackers. Corners grabbing jerseys. A rotation at defensive end that lacked energy. A right tackle struggling to protect the quarterback. It was all there in slow motion, and none of it looked like a playoff team. Schottenheimer turned toward the staff seated around the long table. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't sound angry. He simply said a sentence that froze the room. From this point forward, things will not be the same. That was the moment that everything changed. Not later in practice. Not during the next game. Right there, in that room. Word spread quietly through the building. Veterans felt the tension first. Younger players felt an unexpected rush of hope. Assistants whispered to one another. Reporters sensed something brewing. The bye week hadn't been rest, it had been a reckoning. On the practice field later that morning, Ryan Flournoy stayed after warm-ups, running route after route with sharp precision. All season, he had been only a depth receiver, an afterthought behind Turpin, Tolbert, and Mingo. But the door to WR3, the one that had seemed welded shut, was suddenly open. Dak Prescott jogged toward him, tossed him a ball, and smiled in that knowing way a leader does. Flournoy didn't reply. He didn't have to. His eyes burned with purpose. He ran his next route even sharper than the last, each cut carrying the weight of an entire opportunity he'd never had before. Across the facility, in the tight ends meeting room, the atmosphere was just as charged. Luke Schoonmaker sat replaying a missed block for the 10th time, while rookie Brevy Spann-Ford sat quietly with his back straight, absorbing coaching points. Spann-Ford wasn't flashy. He wasn't a highlight machine. But he was consistent, technical, strong, and reliable, the exact qualities the offense needed. During run drills, he sealed the edge with such force that coaches shouted across the field in genuine excitement. Everyone saw it. Everyone understood it. Schoonmaker saw it too, and the realization hit him like a punch. Snaps were about to shift. But nowhere was the tension higher than on the offensive line. Terence Steele, once a dependable part of the unit, had been struggling for weeks. His confidence was fading. His footwork was late. His timing was off. And looming right behind him was Nate Thomas, the young, raw tackle who had shown both brilliance and disaster in short bursts of playing time. That afternoon, during full-speed team reps, Thomas pancaked a defensive end so violently that the offensive line erupted in shouts. Even Zach Martin nodded with respect. But a few plays later Thomas missed a stunt pickup, forcing Dak to scramble. Steele stood off to the side watching both moments closely. He knew the battle had truly begun. It wasn't personal. It was inevitable. Meanwhile, on defense, the linebacker room had its own storm brewing. Kenneth Murray and Shamar James, the seasoned veterans, looked slower on tape than they had hoped to. Missed gaps. Late reactions. Their experience wasn't overcoming their lack of speed. Across the room, Logan Wilson and DeMarvion Overshown radiated energy. Overshown especially seemed built for this moment. Lightning fast furl. In one electrifying rep, Overshown blew through the line and stuffed a run before it even formed. Helmets clashed. Coaches yelled. Teammates shouted. That single play was louder than any meeting. It was the play that announced the future was arriving, whether anyone was ready or not. The secondary felt the same tremor. Kaiir Elam, once advertised as a rescue piece, had become unreliable. Penalties, poor timing, shaky technique. Triqueze Bridges wasn't offering much steadiness either. But the young corners, Shavon, Revel, and Caelen Carson, were rising. In practice, Carson mirrored routes with smooth precision. Revel broke on passes with fearless aggression. Every rep whispered the same truth: Decisions were coming, and reputations wouldn't matter. At defensive end, the rotation had grown stale. Sam Williams, talented but inconsistent, had lost the coaching staff's trust. In stepped Dante Fowler and James Houston, whose explosiveness lit up the field. Houston's speed around the edge was absurd, a blur that even veteran tackles struggled to handle. Fowler's experience gave him a veteran calm that young pass rushers lacked. Together, they looked like the spark the Cowboys' defense had been missing. By Friday, Cowboys Nation Online felt the energy. Fans argued passionately. Ryan Flournoy is WR3. Bench Elam. Start Overshown. Nate Thomas has to get a real chance. Tom Downey prepared for the Cowboys Report taping, reviewing every snap count and practice note. He knew the fans were right. Changes were coming. Big ones. And he also knew that this wasn't just another bye-week story. This was a turning point. On Saturday night, the team gathered for the final meeting before they returned to the field. Schottenheimer addressed them with steady conviction. This league doesn't care about your draft slot, your contract, or your name, he said. It cares about performance. If you can help this team win, you will play. If you can't, you won't. Nobody breathed. And underscores the human side of the sport. And Hooker's return window signals a potential defensive reinforcement at a crucial time. This blend of rumors, analysis, and updates paints a picture of a Cowboys franchise balancing immediate goals with long-term vision, staying competitive on the field while staying mindful off it. The Dallas Cowboys just made a quick roster move after losing offensive lineman Jaron Christian to the Broncos. Dallas wasted no time signing Marcellus Johnson, a former Eastern Michigan and Missouri lineman who has bounced around the NFC East. He now joins the Cowboys practice squad, giving them a much-needed depth option in the trenches. It's not a flashy signing, but it's a smart, stabilizing pickup after losing a veteran tackle. Meanwhile, the Justin Simmons rumors are heating up again in Dallas. With Malik Hooker on IR and the Cowboys secondary leaking big plays, the idea of adding a two-time Pro Bowl safety suddenly makes sense. Simmons isn't exactly in his prime, but his coverage numbers last season were still strong, and he could bring steady leadership to a defense that desperately needs discipline and experience. On the offensive side, George Pickens has been unstoppable this season, but his 2026 free agency window is creeping closer. If anything goes wrong between Pickens and the Cowboys, Jerry Jones could look elsewhere. One name that makes sense is Colts receiver Alec Pierce. Built like a prototype deep ball weapon, Pierce brings size, vertical explosiveness, and insane yards per catch production. He's not Pickens, but he fits the mold of what Dak Prescott loves in a vertical threat. And in even better news, linebacker DeMarvion Overshown is finally back on the field. After recovering from multiple ligament tears, the Cowboys are expected to keep him on a pitch count, something Brian Schottenheimer believes is crucial for his long-term health. Still, with this defense bleeding yards and struggling to get stops, Overshown's energy and sideline-to-sideline burst could be exactly what the unit needs right now. Cowboys Nation, what do you think? Is Marcellus Johnson a real depth piece or just a stopgap? Would Justin Simmons actually fix the secondary, or is the problem bigger than one veteran addition? Could Alec Pierce ever replace Pickens' deep B? The Dallas Cowboys are back in the spotlight, and this week's headlines are loaded with potential moves that could reshape the roster. After weeks of speculation, two key names are finally making their return: DeMarvion Overshown and rookie corner Shavon Revel. Overshown's comeback is especially emotional for Cowboys fans. The first player in franchise history to wear number 0, he's battled through multiple ACL tears and is now ready to show the world what unfinished business really looks like. Meanwhile, Revel's potential emergence could add much-needed depth to a secondary that's been tested all season long. But the big question remains, will the Cowboys go all in on free agency to patch up their weak spots? One major name still available is Justin Simmons, a proven Pro Bowl safety who brings both leadership and elite playmaking. With the Cowboys secondary struggling for consistency, Simmons could instantly elevate the defense, if Dallas can convince him to come aboard. Then there's the possibility of a Stephon Gilmore reunion. The Cowboys' pass defense currently ranks near the bottom of the league, and Gilmore already proved last season that he still